Hi everyone, this is Diane and I am ready to show you the journal that I created about the Bronte sisters, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne, who wrote some very famous fiction that is still in print today. Most notably, Charlotte wrote Jane Eyre, my favorite novel. Emily wrote Wuthering Heights, and Anne wrote Agnes Grey and the Tenant of Wildfell Hall. And there were 7 novels between them, and I just named 4. I don't know the names of the other 3. I Googled them just now to see what exact time period they lived in. They were born in 1816, 1818, and 1820. And the last one died in 1855, so they did not live very long. And I mentioned that they had a brother. His name was Branwell, and he also died young. Their mother died. I don't know how old she was when she died, but they all lived in the parsonage with their father. But I wanted to show you something. When I Googled it, here is a painting of the 3 sisters. I did not realize that their brother Branwell painted this, but it originally included him in it. And he painted over himself when he thought the composition was too cramped. Isn't that interesting? I did not know that. So there you go. I only went into all of that because many of you expressed interest and wanted to hear a little more. But now we're just going to look at the book. So I made it out of this really pretty blue book cover that actually looks like it's linen. I'll give you the measurements. And it was brighter blue than this, but I put some paint on it to tone it down. It's 5.5 by 8.5, I think. Yes, 5.5 by 8.5. So the paper that I used, the kit that I used was Amy Joy Studios Jane Eyre. And there were only 5 sheets of paper, 5 pages, plus an ephemera page. Sorry, I'm just picking glue off my thumb. I'll turn my phone down. Sorry about that. So I printed this page twice, and I cut the front of it off and added it to the front because I wanted all 3 sisters. And then in a previous video I showed how I did this. There was a quote up here from Jane Eyre, and I didn't want the book to be all about Jane Eyre, and I just wanted it to be about the Brontes. So this is a label, a printable label from Nick the Booksmith, I believe, and I talked about this, finding this on Pinterest. It came on this sheet. All I did was cut that name out. I Mod Podged that on. I added some tatting here and a piece of a doily, and this really pretty blue floral fabric on the spine with some lace here. And it wants to pop open. It's a 1 3/4 inch spine, and I usually do 2 inches normally. And it is flexible because I use the green file folder, but it has the original spine on it. So it does have that, but I had taken the card piece that was in there, so I just added the green file folder. And it also has Tyvek and fabric, so it's very sturdy. The inside end papers were given to me in a Happy Mail, and I believe that the person who sent it, I don't remember who it was, I'm sorry, I think she made this digital paper, and I loved it, and I thought it was great for this, but it was just a little too short. So there was just like less than an inch down here, so I made pockets on both covers to cover that up. This was in an old magazine. I had it with my collage materials, and I just sorted through my collage stuff and found it, and it was about Victorian women, and she just looks like she is a writer. She's got her glasses, her candle, and she's sitting at her desk, so maybe that's one of the Bronte sisters. I backed it with coffee dyed paper. And along with the Amy Joy Studios, I found some images on Pinterest of some of the book covers and quotes. And I used a few Mrs. Coggs images from the journaling and writing set, and also some images of Victorian toiletries and medicines, stuff like that. So this was just a leftover piece from another kit that I had. This is one of Mrs. Coggs. This is just an extra piece you can take out if you want to, because I printed this a long time ago, and I realized that it has this purple bar here. So I just put it in there, and if you don't want it, you can take it out. This is one of the Pinterest images of Jane Eyre, the book. And I sewed it on as a pocket, added this piece of lace. There's this really pretty vintage lace on the edge. And inside is an image from the Amy Joy Studio kit, and it's an illustration from Jane Eyre. I did a little stamping. This is one of the pages. It's got some images and then some quotes. I did some stenciling on a couple of the pages. This is coffee dyed lined paper. I just added a border and then one of the drugstore labels. I can't remember what shop I got this set from, but I'll find it and I will link it, because a lot of the images in here are from that set. This is a page from, here it is, this book, The Language of Flowers. I believe I got that. Yeah, I got that at a flea market. I think it says free. Why would they give that away for free? But they did. So I used some pages out of that. And it just has the plant, the flower, and then what it means. A little bit of decoration. This was a fun element that I added. I have this little frame that was cut with a set of dies that I recently got. It has some labels and an envelope, like a coin envelope, and this. I got it for a specific label and this frame, or for the envelope, but I like all of the pieces, and I had cut them all just to see how I liked them. So I had this green piece in my stash that I had already cut, and it was a little bright, so I rubbed ink over it to dull it down a little bit, and I thought it was a great size. This is an image from Mrs. Coggs, and it's actually Louisa May Alcott, but we could pretend it's one of the Bronte girls. I had to cut the pictures down to fit in the frame. And then I have this stamp, and I stamped it up here and then turned it over and stamped it down there and then glued this piece on top of it, and I thought it turned out really nicely, and you can journal right over that. Here I stamped this set of pen nibs, and it didn't turn out very well, so I stamped it again on this coffee dyed tracing paper and glued it on top. Here's another page from the kit. This one I already had some background pages printed, and I tried to print all of the pages onto those backgrounds, but my printer was acting up, and I'm not going to go into detail, but that's why some of them I had to do some stenciling on the back. I just stamped some pretty little Victorian roses in the corners. I told you in the previous video that I was going to get out some of my linens and use them, so this is one of the linens that I have. This is doubled and edged, and then I added this little bit of lace, and these two images are from the Amy Joy Studio kit, and that's just a piece stamped on muslin. This was from Pinterest, and it's a quote from Jane Eyre, or maybe it's from the kit. I don't remember. I have two of these. I had duplicates of some images, so you might find two of certain ones. And this image, it's a painting of one of the girls, and I did a little stenciling on the backs of some of the cards. This was just something I had in my stash. It was already fussy cut. I don't know what kit it came from, but I just glued it on there. There was some print on this edge, on the corner there, so I had to cover that up. This is from a guest book. piece of Tim Holtz printed vellum. I did a fabric flip with a little bit of vintage lace, and there's another piece of linen here. And again, I stamped onto. These stamps just didn't work out very well. I don't know if I'll keep them because the center of both of those stamps always gives me trouble. It didn't work out so well on the second stamping either. So I've had them for a long time. This is a piece that somebody sent me in a Happy Mail, and it was a die cut, and I had this stamped journaling spot, and this was part of the ephemera kit, Amy Joy Studios. I stamped that hand with the feather pen. Here's one of the pharmacy label images from that digital set. And another image of, I don't know, it's on one of the book covers, but I don't know if it represents one of the Eyre, the Bronte girls. This is an original piece from a Victorian scrapbook. It's also a digital in one of my Victorian ephemera digital kits, but I gave you the original piece. You can feel the embossing, you can see the gold foiling on it. This is one of the Mrs. Coggs images. She's writing. This was fun. I have this background stamp. I got it at my friend's yard sale, and I hadn't used it yet, and it's rows of books, and I thought that was perfect. So I stamped it on a piece of pink coffee dyed paper. It's one of the scrapbook papers that I used in this book, and this is also in my Victorian ephemera digitals, but the colors are so beautiful in that. I love them, and it was in a Victorian scrapbook that I got the pieces at a flea market last year. I love it. There's another one that has a green base further in the book. Here's a quote from Wuthering Heights. This is another book cover for Jane Eyre. I made sure I put a book cover on the front of each signature, one for Charlotte, one for Emily, and one for Anne. And I think I put them in that order when I sewed them in, oldest to youngest. I have, well, I had 3 sisters. I have 2 remaining, and we always do things in order. It's funny. There's another of the pharmacy labels. Here's one of the labels that was die cut with that die set I told you about. This was cut out of a book. I wish I had more of them, but I don't. But it's perfect. I love the size of it. I love the coloring. And of course, the image is perfect for this book. Here's a quote: "Flirting is a woman's trade one must keep in practice." That must be from Jane Eyre, because this kit was all about Jane Eyre. So this is an illustration from the Jane Eyre book. And this is an image from Mrs. Coggs. This one is a little girl writing, so it's one of the Bronte sisters when they were younger, and it also has a little purple there. This is a cut-off piece of the printed vellum, and then I border cut this cut-off piece of scrapbook paper, another piece of that pink scrapbook paper. And this is a little Victorian image that is also in my shop. This is the copy of it, the digital. So I have these digitals in my shop. So here's the second signature with Emily's book, Wuthering Heights. Isn't that a pretty book cover? There were only 5 pages, like I said, in the kit, and I needed 6 so I could have 2 in each signature. So I printed this and another image bigger, 2 to a page. This I printed 4 to a page, along with other images. So you'll see that this is a page. Sorry. This is an image from Mrs. Coggs, and this is a more modern woman, probably early 1900s, but I just love that she's got her feet up on the desk and she's writing, and so I just picture that spirit in the Bronte girls because they were very much ahead of their time. 3 women, single women in a men's world. So I included that image. This is the same image that's on the front, and I left the quote on that one. Some more stenciling here. This one is for golden hair oil. And another page from the Language of Flowers. There's another frame with a Mrs. Coggs image. There's Jane and Rochester at the end of the story. Here's the cover of Agnes Grey. That's one I had 2 images of, so that's the pocket on the 3rd signature. And there's another Jane Eyre quote. I believe Jane Eyre is the most famous of the Bronte's books, with Wuthering Heights being a close second. There's a linen pocket there and another piece of muslin with a stamp. Oh, I was going to tuck something in there. I have to find something little to tuck in there. It's a Tim Holtz die cut. I put it on as a little tiny tuck spot. More vellum, more linens, and a fabric flip. You see the embroidery on that. I brought my OttLight in here. It's a desk lamp it was on my vanity in my bedroom, because I'm thinking about buying one to put in here. But I'm experimenting with this one, and I think I like it. I worked with it the last couple of days, and I think it helped. So tell me how you think it changes the look of my video. This is another image from the Victorian scrapbook. This one is digital, so I have that in my shop. That's a stamped image, and a quote from Anne Bronte. They wrote poetry too. So this just says Anne Bronte, and it doesn't attribute it to any book. So I wonder if it was just something from her journal or from a poem. I love this page. This is my favorite piece from the Tim Holtz vellum. There's a little printable up there. Little furniture advertisement. There's that pretty book cover. This is one of the ephemera pieces from the kit. And this is from the kit. It's the first paragraph from Jane Eyre. Here is another pocket made with that bookcase background and a vase of flowers. This one was cut from a book. And here is another quote from, I'm not sure, doesn't say. Here is an image from the kit, so that is definitely illustration from Jane Eyre. These were pieces cut from an old scrap of graphic 45 paper that I've had for a long time. There's another label, die cut label. Bottle of ink is stamped up there. This is the same quote here as is on that. This is an image from a movie of Jane Eyre. I saw that movie. It might have been a PBS masterpiece movie. I'm not sure, but I saw it. It was very good. And there's another Mrs. Coggs image. And then the third signature features the Agnes Grey cover. And this quote from Pinterest, and it's Jane Eyre. It's quoting Rochester. Cod liver oil. And there's the last frame. I did each one in a different color. So this is the page that I printed, the extra page I printed. This was just an image I found on Pinterest with a quote from Wuthering Heights. And this is the other half of this page. And I put a label on there to cover up that. I only had part of a quote because I had cut it off. So I added that piece of a label. There's a pretty linen there. This is just a fussy cut from a digital. Fabric flip there from an old linen piece. I just made a little tuck spot with a couple of images. This is a digital and this is a stamped image that I cut out. And this is an ephemera piece of an illustration from the Jane Eyre book when she was a little girl. There's a label from a pharmacy. And this is also a digital that's in my shop. I have, that's from Antique Calling Cards. And I have the back of that mirror too as part of the digital set because it has the printing on the back. This beautiful mirror, Victorian mirror, is advertising tobacco. And there's a quote from Wuthering Heights. And there's the image from Wuthering Heights, the book cover. Oh, this one is in there twice. Here's the other vase of flowers that is in my shop. I love the vibrant colors of those pieces. Hair oil. And this was the label that I liked, that I wanted in that die cut set that I bought. That and the coin envelope. But I love all the other pieces too. Here's another quote from Agnes Grey. Reading is my favorite occupation when I have leisure for it and books to read. This was cut from an old piece of scrapbook paper, cardstock, a long time ago. And another of my Victorian pieces. This is a digital of it. And both of these images you have seen elsewhere in the book. I put vellum. I wanted to put a pocket here, but it had the flowers across the bottom of this scrapbook paper. So, well, I wanted to put a pocket there. That's why I chose the vellum, so you can still see the flowers through it. And then on the back, I made another pocket. This image is also in my Victorian ephemera digital kits. And this, I don't remember whose library card this is, but it is a digital. It's got my signature on the back. So that's what I have for you this week. One journal of the Brontes. Thank you so much for watching. I enjoyed making this book and working with these beautiful images and this Victorian type of imagery. So thank you a lot for watching. I appreciate it. And this journal is now in my shop. And I will leave the link to the shop below. I will also link the journal kit and Mrs. Coggs cards and the pharmacy drugstore labels. Have a creative day today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.